So the sequel starts us off back in the Tempest as we know it. With tension so high, Director Tan thinks it's time to finally find the Quarians. So Ryder and the crew finally make it to the Keeler CR Ark. They fight their way to this large area, the large living area before the bridge, and they see this strange thing floating above the room, and it is this blob. It leaves the ship, leaving Ryder to sort of recover with the crew. With Ryder and the crew travelling around, they start hearing of this Jardan. We reach our first point of no return in the fact that we learn that Geln is something that can stop the Jardan, and the Andromeda galaxy, or the Helios cluster, maybe per cluster, are just giant experiments. But when the Milky Way galaxy species entered Andromeda, that ruined the experiment, and the Jardan decided that they would reset everything and start again. And that failsafe is found, and suddenly we're cut out. Ryder wakes up on the floor of the cabin, very groggy, having been sort of immediately disconnected from this interface. As soon as Ryder and the crew member gets outside, we see a Ket ship fly off into the distance. The love interest, or the twin, is gone. Ryder has lost them. Back aboard the Tempest, Ryder is distraught. They've lost his crew member. What can they do? How can they get them back? Well, we need to find the Ket flagship, and we need to get in there. And the crew members are like, that's suicide, Ryder. That's crazy. We see Ryder start to become unhinged, desperate. And suddenly there is a message on the main screen on the bridge, and Ryder is called down, and it is a Ket general. And Ryder's, what do you want from us? We want our crew member back. And the Ket general says, we don't want your crew member. We don't want your crew. We want you. We want you, Ryder. It turns out that when the Jardan first met Ryder back on the Keeler CR, they noticed something. They sensed something in Ryder. They sensed that Ryder was one of the only organisms they found which was a part of this symbiosis idea. They detected that Ryder was organic, but inside Ryder's head, hardwired into their brain, was Sam, synthetic. Ryder is a symbiote. Ryder is part biological and part synthetic. The Jardan noticed that. That's why it stopped its attack, and that's why the Jardan want the Ket to kidnap and capture Ryder. So the Ket general says, we want you, and if you want your twin back, or if you want your love interest back, you're going to hand yourself over to us, and that's it. And Ryder says, okay. And the crew's like, no, you can't do this, Ryder. We can't let you do this. There's no discussion. They go back down to the planet's surface. The Tempest, the small crew, compared to Ket ships and gunships in the air, and just a huge Ket army and force waiting on them. And there's a love interest in chains, and there's Ket general, and they walk towards each other. Ryder and the love interest, or the twin, and they walk past each other, and they're begging them, Ryder, no, you can't do this. Ryder doesn't look back, goes to the Ket, flies off. Ryder has been captured. This is the heartfelt part of the story. This is where I want to bring out vulnerabilities in Ryder, because we see it in a lot of other media, and when you bring out the vulnerabilities in the main hero, in the main person, it makes them a lot more empathetic. Maybe that's just me, but hopefully you can follow along with this. Ryder has been captured by the Ket, and they're understandably scared. They wake up on this surgery table, their armor's been taken off, or it's starting to be cut off. There's tools to the side, there's a surgeon there, a Ket surgeon getting ready. Around them is like bodies and blood, and it's just horrifying, and Ryder's genuinely scared. The Ket understand that the Jardan are their creators. They are these beings to be revered. They've given them the power to bring other species into the Ket, to convert people. So they revere this species, and our masters want to know what makes you, you. And as Ryder is watching, like, the blade coming towards them and these tools, Sam says, don't worry, Ryder, I'll put you out. I'll protect you. And Sam makes Ryder unconscious as the surgeons start to cut in, and we don't see anything, but we wake up a few hours later. Ryder is groggy. They're hurt. They're lucky to be alive. Ryder's been cut open. There's big scars on their head. You know, they're completely messed up. And the first thing Ryder says is, Sam? Sam? Nothing. Sam is gone. The Ket have removed Sam forcibly from Ryder. Stitched them back up. They're an absolute mess. They're drained of energy. Ryder can barely move. They're strapped to a table and they hear this noise beside them, and they look over to another human, and that other human's bandaged and torn and experimented on. They've just been a test subject, and they go, "You're Ryder, aren't you? You know you're the Pathfinder. You're the savior of humanity." And this is where Ryder, although scared, although destroyed, although suffering from this impromptu post surgery, has to be the hero, has to be this icon. Yeah, I am the Pathfinder. And this human starts asking, what does Habitat 7 look like? What does the human golden world look like? And Ryder's like, it has to lie, because Habitat 7 is still pretty messed up. And it's wonderful. It's the waterfalls and green plains and lovely sandy beaches, and this is really tear-jerking stuff. And then Ryder goes, you'll get to see it one day. I have hope. I'll save you. You'll get to see it one day. And they look over, and this human has died. This person has passed on. Ryder, not knowing if they heard anything about Habitat 7, this person they could not save, is gone. And Ryder is left alone without Sam, without anyone, in the middle of this Ket surgery, probably to die. Ryder is awakened by either the love interest or the twin shaking them up. Ryder, come on, we need to go, we need to get up. And Ryder slowly comes to, and they're still messed up, they're lacking their armour. They get some rudimentary clothes on Ryder, and they pull them out off of this table, and they give Ryder a gun. They say, come on Ryder, we need to go, we need to get moving. And this could be like a slow section as they wander through the ship, and it would be like the Andromeda scene where Ryder is disconnected from Sam, and they're sort of groggy and they're moving about and they're limping. They're really, really messed up. Ryder's crew and the Nexus had to wait until the Ket were disorganised, because Ryder was kept on this massive Ket ship that they couldn't just attack. They didn't want to risk anything. So they sent a strike team to sort of follow the Ket, and as soon as the Ket were sort of disorganised and they were probably preparing something, they sent this strike team in, infiltrated the Ket ship to get Ryder out. And this is the perfect time. Ryder's being pulled, and they get to the shuttle, and off they go back to the Tempest. Ryder is brought into the Tempest medbay, and they are reunited with Sam. Now, Sam was disconnected from them, forcibly taken from Ryder, and Sam explains, that part of me, that section of my networking, that instance of me was taken from you. I couldn't connect to you anymore. I couldn't see you anymore. I couldn't find you. I don't know what happened to you, Ryder. And they're talking, and Sam is saying, I don't think I can be reconnected to you. I'm just going to have to be like the rest of the troops. I'm going to be in your Omni tool for now. But Ryder hasn't got access to their profiles. They haven't got access to a lot of their their powers and Sam's help and the translator. Ryder's hurt. Ryder's messed up. Ryder convenes a meeting, and they talk about, the crew of the Tempest talk about what happened, and Ryder mentions that in and out of consciousness they heard the Ket talk about Key to Sira, which is the place of ascension, and they only heard snippets of what was happening. So something big's going down, and Ryder thinks Key to Sira, well, that must mean that it's something to do with, and then they hear this emergency signal. This is Meridian. Come in. We need someone to help us. Meridian is under attack. There's Ket forces coming in. There's something coming to get us. And it turns out the Ket are launching a full-scale attack with the Jardan, with this Jardan on Meridian. And even though they're scarred and messed up, Ryder gets suited and is prepared to fight for Meridian. And this is the end of the game. Now, this is a major choice, and I mentioned it at the start of the video, whether you helped Meridian to become more inclusive by maybe ousting the human councillor, and you didn't allow humanity just to hoard Meridian so everyone shares in the wealth of Meridian. Meridian is populated with all species, or you decided to ignore the quest, or you didn't take part in it, and the humans greedily kept power of Meridian, and there's a small force there. So if Meridian is free to all races, then they're able to defend themselves, and they're able to counterattack. Or if you left Meridian in the hands of only humanity, they're very weak and they are decimated when the Jardan breaks in. And the Jardan goes mental. We're talking about like tendrils whipping about the place and laser beams and massive explosions. This thing is unstoppable. It's got shields that no one can penetrate. It is tearing through Meridian. Ryder and the crew make it there, and this is sort of like the suicide mission. This is where loyalty comes into play. You send the different people off, and this could be a tribute to what we have so far. And like Drax could be like fucking punching Ket's heads off. PB could be in a really cool sort of like remnant power suit, like the design in Wolfenstein, which I always thought looked like remnant tech. Of course, Wolfenstein did it first, but it'd be really cool if she was able to build that out of rem tech, and she was, tearing people in half. Vectra could be gunning people down. We could have cool points for every crew member. Just as sort of a tribute to them, something really awesome to watch while Ryder is making their way to the centre of Meridian. Finally, like the end of Mass Effect Andromeda, Ryder makes it to the Meridian core with their two chosen crew members, and they are like thrown aside. This huge tendril knocks out their crew members, makes them fly across the room, and they're out for the fight, and leaves just Ryder in this circle in the middle with the Jardan. And beneath the Jardan, we see a figure. We see a remnant sort of robot, an android, a two-legged human-like android, and it slowly starts pacing its way towards Ryder, who draws their gun. They don't know what this is, and the droid says, "Hello, Ryder. It is Sam." This piece of remnant tech is Sam, but it's the Sam that was taken from Ryder's mind. It was the piece of Sam that was disconnected from the rest of the network, torn out of Ryder's head and placed into this body. And this is a sick joke by the Jardan. The Jardan have taken made an organic, a fully biological being out of Ryder, and have made a synthetic out of Sam, a puppet, and have put them together to fight the final showdown, the confrontation. This thing is being controlled by the Jardan, and Sam still has its cognitive abilities. I don't want to do this, Ryder. I'm sorry, I don't want to fight you. I don't want to hurt you. And it's a big fight. It's going to be a dramatic fight. It's going to be a difficult fight. There's gunfire as this thing tries to make its way towards them. Its arm could turn into like a sort of a bitchin' sort of blade, and Ryder could bring out the Omni blade, and they can have like sort of fights. I don't know about you guys. Maybe it's just me, but I don't mind quick time events when it adds something that's cinematic. So it could be cool to have sort of quick time event parries, and just to make things look really, I don't know, Hollywood. Maybe that's me going too far, but I think it would be really cool as a final boss. It'd be better than the fucking Archon, at least. I wanted this to be very symbolic, so it's the Jardan above this biological and artificial being fighting one another, and it shows that the Jardan is above all this, literally above all this, and it gets brutal at the end. Ryder manages to stab their Omni blade right through the centre of this Sam remnant bot, and the droid manages to do the same, stabbing Ryder with its remnant blade, and the two sort of collapse on their knees in front of each other, and it's very dramatic. It's very, Ryder's mortally wounded, Sam's mortally wounded, and they're talking to each other, and Ryder, I didn't want to fight you, I'm so sorry. And the Sam mentions, it's not my actions, I'm being controlled by the Jardan, but maybe I can interface with the Jardan, maybe I can weaken it somehow. And the Sam in Ryder's Omni tool says, I might be able to hack into the Jardan and call, weaken it or disable it or something. So the Sam, the networked Sam from the Omni tool, interfaces with the Sam remnant bot, which interfaces with the Jardan, and the Jardan howls out in pain and is weakened, and its shields start to go down, just as humans and your crew members, and if they're allowed there, if you took the more generous path, Asari and Turians and Solarians storm into the central chamber, and they just start pounding this Jardan with gunfire and lasers and RPGs and rockets, and it biotics by the Asari, and it's fucking cool. and it slowly tumbles down into the scourge, the dark liquid, and it slowly starts to disintegrate. With the Jardan dead, Ryder wakes up once again in the Tempest medbay, and they're confused, they're looking about, and they suddenly hear, "Hello, Ryder." And Sam has been successfully reinstalled back in Ryder's head, back in Ryder's noggin, and they are once again reunited. And they talk about things. They talk about the Jardan, about the mix between organics and synthetics, and how, you know, they're better than that. You know, they have learnt that they don't need to be these absolute monsters. They don't need to lose their morality. They don't need to become power hungry and crazy. You know, organics and synthetics can work together, and this is a theme that Mass Effect has been pushing since the original trilogy, and it'd be nice if Andromeda 2 brought back into that theme. So that's how I would end on that sort of dialogue. We could have other things. Maybe there's a wedding between Ryder and their love interest. That would be quite fan servicey. That would be quite nice. We could have like a movie night, a few extra like funny missions at the end. We would have a celebration on the Meridian, and if you decided to take the Paragon route, all the species would be there, and they'd have sort of a party. They'd remember the dead, they'd be remorseful, but there would be a sort of party. They survived, you know, they defeated the Jardan, you know, that they have made their place in Andromeda, and everyone would be happy. If you decided to take the more renegade route and you didn't decide to help the Meridian, then it's just humans there, and they're very, you know, they've got facial bandages and they're scarred and they're bloody, and the other races pay their respects from the orbit of the Meridian. They're in their ships and they're paying their respects to the fallen, but they're not allowed in. You know, that this is humanity's problem. They'll just leave them to it. You know, they reap what they sow. So there are loads of choices in Mass Effect Andromeda 2, but I thought that was one example that I could use. Of course, the morality system would definitely come back into play, and do as much as it can, because I think that's a very integral part of the Mass Effect franchise as a whole. But that's just one example I wanted to bring up. We could end on something a bit cheesy. Maybe there's talks about the Jardan horror, maybe if there's any more of them, and it could zoom out to the edge of the Helios cluster and we could see these mysterious ships start to drive inward. So that would be the start of Mass Effect Andromeda 3 to end the trilogy. But that's how I would write Mass Effect Andromeda 2. Now, I didn't cover a lot of things because this video is long enough as it is. I don't know if I've made it a two-parter or not. If I have, I'm very sorry. I didn't cover the mysterious benefactor. I didn't cover like Angaran stuff. There's a lot of stuff I didn't touch up on. I did write about it, but I decided that this video is long and I didn't want to go on for an hour. I'd like to take the time to thank the Amorphist, who is a Redditor, who helped me write this script. The guy's absolutely awesome. I hope I did our ideas justice, man. But if you like the video, please like to show your support. If you want to see more videos like this, I'd love to cover other series. I'm absolutely mad about game lore, so to be able to do prospective sequels or games that maybe didn't hit the mark with the story and maybe could be rewritten, I'd love to do stuff like this. Tell me what you thought in the comments down below. If you like this thing, like to show your support, subscribe. I've got other videos to check out. I've done lots of Mass Effect Andromeda. You can check that in the card, which is probably up there somewhere, for my Mass Effect Andromeda videos. I've got other videos to check out. I do reviews, I do stuff like that. Share this video if you think it's cool. Comment, just do whatever. Social media down below, you know, all this sort of stuff. But thank you so much for watching, Bin Raiders. Keep bin raiding, and I will see you next time.